Mira opened her eyes and gasped. The world around her was unlike anything she had ever seen. As a Zephyrian princess, she had traveled between stars, seen glowing gas clouds, and walked on planets with skies of multiple colors, but Earth was different. Its sky was soft blue, the sun warm and comforting, and the gentle wind carried smells of grass, flowers, and something sweet she could not name. The earth beneath her feet felt solid, yet alive. She had chosen this world to understand life as a human, and now she was here, in a new body that looked like a human woman. She touched her skin, smooth, soft, and fragile compared to her strong alien form. Her hair was dark and thick, and her eyes sparkled like polished amber. She had taken the name Nina, a simple name that would not draw attention. She wanted to start small, blend in, and learn what humans were like. At first, the city overwhelmed her. Tall buildings towered over her, and strange machines roared past on the streets. Humans moved quickly, talking to each other in sounds she had studied from afar. Yet hearing them live was different, so full of emotion, urgency, and life. Some stared at her, but not with fear or suspicion. It was curiosity, mild and fleeting. That was comforting. Nina walked carefully along the sidewalk, her shoes tapping lightly against the pavement. She marveled at the small details she had never noticed from afar. Children laughed as they played with a bouncing ball. Street vendors called to passers-by, offering smells of food she did not yet know how to name. Birds perched on wires, singing songs that made her heart feel something she could not describe, a light, fluttering happiness. She wanted to understand it all. She watched a family sitting in a park, sharing food and stories. The parents held hands while the children ran around. It seemed ordinary, yet it felt magical. Mira had seen royal feasts, alien gatherings, and ceremonies across galaxies, but this simple connection amazed her. She wanted it. She wanted to feel it. Her first challenge was communication, though she had learned human languages from books and recordings. Speaking them in real life was harder. Her voice felt strange, softer, and weaker than her alien form. She hesitated when greeting people, sometimes stumbling over words. But humans were patient. A small smile from a stranger gave her courage, and soon she was learning quickly how to nod, laugh, and respond naturally. Nina rented a small apartment above a quiet street. She liked its simplicity. The furniture was plain, yet comforting. Sunlight streamed through the windows, warming her skin. For the first time, she cooked her own meal. She chopped vegetables carefully, stirred them in a pan, and tasted something she had never tried before. It was simple flavors blending in a way she did not fully understand, but it brought her a strange satisfaction. She smiled, realizing that humans found joy in small things, things she had ignored in her grand life as a princess. The next days were a mix of wonder and challenge. She took long walks, observing how humans lived, laughed, and worked. She visited libraries, trying to understand human history and culture. Books were alive with stories, each word teaching her about emotions she had never experienced deeply: love, fear, hope, sadness. She began to understand that humans were strong in ways different from Zephyrians. Their strength came not from power, intelligence, or skill, but from perseverance, empathy, and connection. One afternoon, while walking through a crowded market, Nina saw a commotion. A small child had wandered away from a vendor, looking scared and lost. Panic flashed in the child's eyes, and people around were unsure what to do. Without thinking, Nina ran forward. She crouched to the child's level, her voice calm and soft. "It's okay. Don't be scared. I'll help you," she said. The child's eyes widened, then slowly relaxed. Nina guided the child back to the vendor, who thanked her profusely. She felt an unfamiliar warmth spreading through her chest. In Zephyrian culture, such acts were expected only of leaders or heroes, but here it was simple kindness. It made her feel connected. Afterward, she reflected on the moment. Helping someone, even a stranger, brought joy that power never could. She realized that humans did not need to dominate, impress. or control to matter. They could simply care, and that was enough. Mira, now Nina, felt a small, radiant spark of happiness she had never known. Still, adaptation was not easy. She stumbled over customs, misread jokes, and felt frustrated when things did not go as she expected. Some humans ignored her, some laughed at her mistakes, and sometimes the city's chaos overwhelmed her. But she reminded herself why she had come, to understand humanity in its fullest. Every failure was a lesson, every new experience, a treasure. At night, Nina lay on her small bed, looking at the ceiling. She missed her home, her people, and the certainty of her life as a princess. Yet, the stars beyond her window looked familiar, distant but kind. For the first time, she understood that home was not just a place, it could also be a feeling. And perhaps, here on Earth, she could find a new kind of home. As days passed, Nina explored deeper into the human world. She rode buses, visited museums, and even tried dancing, laughing at herself when she tripped. She was learning not just to survive as a human, but to live. Each moment was a revelation, a small discovery of emotions, connections, and joys that Zephyrian life had never offered. And then, one sunny morning, while walking in a park filled with laughter and birdsong, Nina saw him, a young man helping a child who had fallen from a bike. He smiled, brushed the dirt off the child's knees, and said something that made the child laugh. There was warmth in his eyes, kindness in his hands, and patience in his voice. He looked ordinary, yet extraordinary in his humanity. Nina felt a flutter she did not understand. She had come to Earth to experience life as a human, but she had not expected to be drawn to someone in this way. Curiosity, admiration, and something deeper stirred inside her. She felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this world could offer her more than understanding. Perhaps it could offer connection, companionship, and even love. She watched him from afar, heart racing, unsure of how to approach. But one thing was clear: Earth was alive, full of wonder, and full of people capable of kindness and bravery. And for the first time, Nina felt that she belonged, not because she was powerful or beautiful, but simply because she was learning to be human. In that moment, she knew her journey had truly begun. The sun was warm on Nina's face as she walked through the bustling city park. Children laughed, dogs ran across the grass, and the smell of fresh bread from a nearby bakery drifted through the air. Every detail fascinated her. As a Zephyrian, she had seen planets with incredible colors and skies full of strange moons. But Earth's simple beauty touched something deep inside her. Nina wandered along the winding paths, observing people as they went about their lives. She liked watching the small gestures: an old man helping a woman with her bags, a teenager giving his place on a bench to someone older, a street musician playing a cheerful tune while passers-by dropped coins into his hat. Humans had a way of showing kindness without expectation, and Nina found it endlessly fascinating. Suddenly, a loud cry broke her attention. She spun around and saw a little girl, no older than 5, running away from a group of pigeons that had startled her. The child tripped on the uneven ground and fell to her knees, tears welling in her eyes. People nearby glanced at her, unsure what to do, but no one moved. Quickly, without thinking, Nina rushed to the child. "Are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside her. Her voice was gentle, warm, unlike the commanding tone she had used as a Zephyrian princess. The child sniffled and nodded, though her eyes were still wide with fear. "I can't find my mommy," the girl said, her voice trembling. "Don't worry," Nina said, smiling. "I will help you." She stood and took the child's hand, guiding her through the crowd. The little girl's small fingers fit perfectly in Nina's, and she felt a strange sense of protection she had never experienced before. As they walked, Nina noticed a young man approaching them, his brow furrowed with concern. He had dark hair, gentle eyes, and a calm presence that immediately put the child at ease. He knelt down, speaking softly to the girl. "There you are, Lily. I was so worried." The child ran into his arms, and Nina stepped back, feeling a warmth in her chest she did not fully understand. The man looked up and caught her eyes. Thank you, he said simply. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't helped her. Nina smiled. It was nothing. I'm glad she's safe. I'm Leo, he said, extending a hand. And you are? I'm Nina, she replied, shaking his hand. His grip was firm but kind, and she felt an odd sense of connection in that simple gesture. Leo glanced at the child again, who waved. At Nina, she's very brave, but sometimes she gets scared of little things, he said. You really helped her. Nina nodded. I like helping people. She realized as she said it that it was true not for recognition or reward, but because it felt right. There was a joy in caring for others that she had never known as a princess. Where actions were often calculated for power or honor. Leo smiled at her, not in admiration, but in genuine appreciation. It's rare to find people willing to stop and help others these days. Thank you. The moment felt simple, yet profound. Nina had never expected such warmth from a stranger, and it struck her deeply. For the first time, she wondered if humans could truly understand someone without needing them to be extraordinary in status, power, or appearance. As they walked together toward the park exit, Leo introduced Nina to the neighborhood. He pointed out his favorite spots: a small cafe with the best coffee, a bookstore where the owner always had time to recommend new reads, and a quiet pond where people fed ducks in the morning. Nina listened, absorbing every detail, fascinated by how humans created their own small worlds filled with comfort, tradition, and connection. You should come with me tomorrow, Leo said suddenly. A little shy, I'm taking Lily to the city library. She loves books about animals. You could come too, if you like. Nina hesitated. Humans often invited each other to things without expecting a strict answer. And yet this felt different. It was not just an invitation, it was inclusion. A small act of acceptance. She nodded. I'd like that, as they parted that evening. Nina walked back to her apartment with a heart that felt lighter than it had in centuries. She had not only helped a child, but had also met someone who radiated kindness, without expecting anything in return. It was a foreign feeling, yet comforting, and it stirred emotions she could barely name. That night, she lay in bed thinking about Leo. She remembered his calm presence, the gentle way he spoke to the child, and the small smile he gave her. It was not a smile of admiration, but of acknowledgement, and it made her feel seen not as a princess or a powerful being, but as Nina, a human trying to understand this world. The next morning, Nina decided to explore more of the city, hoping to observe human life in its natural rhythm. She noticed people helping each other, sharing small acts of kindness, and laughing over tiny moments that seemed trivial but carried immense joy. She realized that humans did not need to impress others to matter. Their strength lay in empathy, patience, and the courage to be vulnerable. Later that day, she went to a small park near her apartment, carrying a sketchbook. She had never drawn before as a Zephyrian. Her kind communicated in ways beyond sight, and art had little meaning. But here, she felt compelled to capture the scenes around her: children playing, the flutter of birds in the trees, and the peaceful faces of people enjoying simple moments. Her sketches were rough, imperfect, but they filled her with satisfaction. Creating something for no one else but herself was new, exciting, and freeing. As evening fell, she returned to the street where she had met Leo and Lily. To her surprise, Leo was there, walking with the little girl, holding her hand. They saw her and waved. Nina waved back, feeling a warmth in her chest. Hi, Nina. We were hoping to see you, Leo said. Do you want to walk with us for a while? I'd like that, Nina replied, smiling. Together, they strolled through the streets, talking about books, music, and simple things that humans cherished. Every word, every laugh, every glance seemed to pull Nina closer to this world and to the people in it. By the time they said goodbye that evening, Nina knew something had changed. She had expected her human life to be a series of observations and experiments. But now, she realized it could be more. It could be a life filled with connection, learning, and even friendship that went beyond the surface. As she walked home, Nina thought about the Zephyrian Council and the messages urging her to return. They were important. Yes, but her heart felt drawn here. She had found a part of herself she had never known, and for the first time in centuries. She felt a sense of belonging not because she was admired or powerful, but because she was simply herself. That night, under the soft glow of Earth's moon, Nina whispered to herself, "Maybe this is where I'm meant to be for now, at least." And for the first time, the word home felt real, not distant or theoretical. The encounter with Leo and the child had done more than show her human kindness. It had opened her heart to the possibility of love, trust, and understanding in a way that no interstellar palace or council could ever teach, and Nina knew, deep in her heart, that this journey had only just begun. Days passed, and Nina's life on Earth became fuller, richer, and more complex each morning. She woke to the gentle light of the sun streaming through her small apartment windows. The world outside was alive with sounds she had grown to love. Birds chirping, children laughing, and the low hum of distant traffic. Each sound reminded her that life here moved at a pace different from her home planet. Zephyrians lived in measured, calculated rhythms, but humans thrived in spontaneity, reacting, feeling, and learning as they went. Nina found herself drawn into it. She spent her mornings walking through the city streets, greeting shopkeepers who had begun to recognize her, simple gestures, smiling at a passerby, holding the door open, or helping someone carry groceries brought her small yet profound joy. She had once been surrounded by wealth, influence, and admiration as Princess Mira, but none of it had ever felt as satisfying as the quiet happiness she now experienced. In these tiny acts of human kindness, afternoons were reserved for Leo. They met almost daily at the small park where they had first encountered each other, or sometimes at the library he had introduced her to. Nina was fascinated by the world of books. Unlike Zephyrian knowledge, which was precise, logical, and often rigid, human literature overflowed with emotion, imagination, and variety. She read stories of courage, love, adventure, and struggle, feeling emotions she had never known. Sometimes she laughed aloud at a funny passage. Other times, tears pricked her eyes. Leo seemed to understand her without question. He would listen attentively, comment thoughtfully, and often share his own experiences. They talked about music, art, and dreams for the future. He encouraged her to try things she had never considered, like baking simple bread or painting landscapes. Nina discovered that human life was not about perfection, but about effort, learning, and connection. One afternoon, Leo invited her to a small concert in the park. A local musician played a soft melody on a violin, and people gathered around, swaying and humming along. Nina closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her. She felt vibrations in her chest, emotions she had no names for: peace, longing, joy, and something like love. For centuries, she had experienced life as a Zephyrian, analyzing it, mastering it, and controlling it. But here, music flowed through her freely, and she realized that emotions were a strength humans carried openly, without fear. Nina's human form, however, had its challenges. Her body was delicate, and simple tasks required more effort than she had expected. She stumbled over uneven sidewalks, felt tired after long walks, and sometimes became overwhelmed by crowds. She also struggled with human customs, small social rules, jokes, and subtle expressions often confused her. Once, during a conversation, she misinterpreted a sarcastic comment and responded literally, earning a gentle laugh from Leo. She felt a momentary sting of embarrassment, but also laughed at herself. Mistakes were a natural part of human life, a lesson she was slowly learning to accept. One evening, as they sat on a bench watching the sunset, Leo asked, "Do you ever miss your old home?" Nina hesitated. The question touched a tender part of her. "Sometimes," she admitted. "I miss the certainty of it, my family, my duties, the knowledge that I always had a role." But she paused, searching for the right words. "Here, I feel alive in a way I never have before. I see, I feel, I learn. Everything is new, exciting, and sometimes frightening, but I like it. I think I am discovering who I really am." Leo smiled softly. I think that's the beauty of being human. We don't always have certainty, but we have the freedom to grow and change, and it sounds like you are doing just that. His words resonated deeply with Nina. She realized that Zephyrians prized control and perfection, but humans thrived in imperfection, curiosity, and connection. Life was messy, unpredictable, and beautiful. Nina's feelings for Leo grew stronger each day. She admired his kindness, patience, and quiet courage. He noticed things others overlooked, the small gestures of people helping one another, the hidden beauty in a cracked sidewalk, or the subtle emotions in someone's voice. Watching him, Nina learned that strength was not only in physical skill or intelligence, but in empathy, understanding, and the willingness to care for others. One rainy afternoon, Leo invited her to take shelter under a small cafe awning. They laughed as water splashed around their feet, and Nina realized how much she enjoyed these spontaneous, unscripted moments. In Zephyrian culture, spontaneity was rare, plans were precise, actions calculated. Here, unpredictability was a source of joy, not fear. She felt freer than she had ever felt in her life. Nina began to understand the human heart in ways she never could as a princess. Humans experience fear, hope, joy, and sadness openly. They reached out for help, expressed emotions, and allowed themselves to be vulnerable. It was not weakness, as Zephyrians might have thought it was courage. Observing Leo in others, Nina learned that emotional openness built connection, trust, and resilience. Despite her growing comfort, doubt sometimes crept in. She remembered the messages from the Zephyrian Council urging her to return. They did not understand her desire to experience human life, and they would never accept her choices. She felt torn between duty and her newfound curiosity, between her old life of status and her new life of discovery. But every time she spent a moment with Leo, helping a stranger, or simply walking in the park, her heart reminded her why she had come. One evening, as they shared coffee at a small cafe, Leo asked, "Do you think you'll stay here for a long time?" Nina stared into her cup, thinking. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Part of me belongs to my old world, but another part feels like it belongs here. I want to see what it means to live, to feel, to connect. I want to understand humanity, not just study it from afar." Leo reached across the table, lightly touching her hand. "Then stay, explore, learn, and know that you have someone here who will walk with you, no matter what you discover." Nina felt warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, she truly felt that she was not alone. She had someone who accepted her, someone who saw her not for what she had been, but for who she was becoming. Days turned into weeks, and Nina's confidence as a human grew. She learned to cook simple meals, navigate public transportation, and even join in local traditions and festivals. She laughed more freely, cried without shame, and embraced the unpredictability of life. Each day was a lesson, each interaction a discovery. Her bond with Leo deepened. They shared quiet walks, small adventures, and endless conversations. Nina learned that connection was not about grandeur or power, it was about patience, understanding, and empathy. Humans built relationships through shared experiences, trust, and care. And slowly, Nina felt herself opening to the possibility of love, a concept she had understood intellectually as a Zephyrian, but never experienced with such intensity. By the end of the 4th week, Nina realized something important. Earth was teaching her not just how to be human, but how to be herself. She was no longer Princess Mira alone, nor was she merely Nina, a visitor trying to blend in. She was both, learning to combine her wisdom, curiosity, and courage with empathy, joy, and vulnerability. And as she walked home one evening, watching the soft glow of city lights reflected in puddles from a recent rain, she whispered to herself, "I think I am beginning to understand. To be human is to live fully, to feel deeply, and to connect truly, and I am ready to keep learning." The days grew warmer as summer approached, and with each passing morning, Nina found herself eagerly looking forward to meeting Leo. Their friendship had grown naturally, built on shared experiences, quiet laughter, and small acts of kindness. She had learned to cook a simple meal for herself, but she discovered joy in preparing something for others, especially for Leo. A loaf of bread, some fresh fruit, and a pot of tea became their shared ritual on quiet afternoons in the park. On one such afternoon, they sat beneath the shade of a large oak tree. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground. Leo watched her carefully as she placed the steaming cups on the blanket they had spread. "You really enjoy this, don't you?" he asked with a gentle smile. Nina nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest. "I do. It's different from anything I've done before. It feels meaningful, simple, but meaningful." Leo's eyes softened. "That's what humans do. We find meaning in small things. In caring for others, sharing moments, laughing, or even crying together." Nina listened, absorbing his words. She had begun to understand that human strength was not measured by power, status, or ability, but by empathy, courage, and connection. And Leo embodied all of these qualities. His patience, kindness, and quiet understanding drew her in, making her feel safe in a way she had never felt before. After their meal, they walked through the city streets. Children played near the fountain, their laughter echoing off the buildings. Street performers entertained passersby, and vendors called out to sell their goods. Nina watched it all with wide eyes, noticing every small detail, the way a mother held her child's hand, the smile exchanged between strangers, the way music made people pause and sway. Humans, she realized, found beauty and joy in every day life. Leo noticed her attention to detail. "You notice everything," he said, laughing softly. "It's amazing how you see the little things that others often miss." "I think humans are beautiful in their small gestures," Nina replied. "The way you care for others, the way you enjoy life, it's different from anything I've seen before. I want to understand it fully." Leo smiled and reached for her hand. "Then stay with me. Watch, learn, and experience. That's how it happens." Their hands brushed, and Nina felt a flutter in her chest. It was a new sensation, light, warm, and thrilling. She had studied human emotions from afar, but experiencing them firsthand was entirely different. The feeling was gentle, but powerful, a small spark that hinted at something deeper. Over the next weeks, their bond grew stronger. Nina accompanied Leo as he helped neighbors with small tasks, from fixing a broken fence to carrying groceries. She began to see the courage in everyday human actions, the patience it took to listen, the empathy it required to understand another person's struggles, the quiet strength in helping without expectation. One evening, as they sat by the river, watching the sunset, Nina turned to Leo. "Do you ever wonder what makes people happy?" she asked softly. Leo thought for a moment. "I think it's simple things: connection, understanding, kindness, and maybe the courage to face life even when it's hard. Happiness isn't constant, it comes in moments." Nina nodded, reflecting on her own experiences. She had been admired, respected, and even feared in her Zephyrian life, but none of that had brought true happiness. Here, in these small moments, she felt joy that was pure, uncalculated, and real. As summer days passed, they shared more adventures. They visited local fairs, explored hidden gardens, and even took a short trip to the countryside. Nina marveled at the simplicity and beauty of the world's rolling hills, sparkling streams, and endless skies. She laughed freely, sometimes tripping over her own feet, and Leo would catch her, his smile reassuring and kind through it all. Nina began to understand human vulnerability. People allowed themselves to be imperfect, to fail, to hurt, and yet they continued to love, help, and hope. She realized that this openness was not weakness, as Zephyrians might believe, but a remarkable kind of strength. It required courage to face life without guarantees, to invest in others despite risk, and to embrace emotions fully. One afternoon, while visiting a small library, Leo introduced her to a community project helping children learn to read. Nina watched as he patiently guided a young boy through the alphabet, encouraging him with every step. She felt something stir deep inside, a combination of admiration, warmth, and something else she could not yet name. She realized that human love was more than romance. It was care, patience, and selflessness. Later, as they walked home, Leo asked, "Do you feel connected here, to people, to life?" Nina thought for a moment. "I do. More than I ever felt as a princess. People here, they care in ways I've never experienced. And I think I want to be part of it, not just observe, but truly belong." Leo's eyes softened. "I'm glad. And I'm glad you're here. You make the world brighter, Nina." Her heart warmed at his words. She had never been praised like this, not for her abilities or status, but for simply being herself. It was a feeling she cherished, one she wanted to explore further. As the weeks turned into months, Nina's confidence grew. She learned to navigate the city alone, engage with strangers, and participate in local traditions. She laughed more, cried without shame, and embraced the unpredictability of life. And through it all, Leo remained by her side, offering guidance, support, and quiet companionship. One warm evening, as fireflies danced in the park, Leo turned to Nina. "Do you ever wonder what the future holds?" Nina smiled softly. "I do. And I think the best way to face it is with someone by your side, someone you trust, who understands you, and who shares your journey." Leo reached for her hand once more, holding it gently. "Then let's face it together." In that moment, Nina realized the depth of her feelings. She admired Leo not only for his kindness, patience, and courage, but for his ability to see the world with clarity, empathy, and joy. She understood that human love was more than a fleeting emotion. It was connection, understanding, and shared growth. That night, as she lay in her apartment, Nina reflected on everything she had learned. She had come to Earth seeking understanding, but she had found something far greater: friendship, connection, and the beginnings of love. She had discovered that being human meant embracing imperfection, learning from mistakes, and cherishing every small moment. And as she drifted to sleep, she whispered to herself, "I am beginning to understand. To be human is to live fully, to feel deeply, and to connect truly, and I am ready to grow even more." Summer was fading into early autumn, and the air carried a crispness that made Nina pull her light jacket tight around her shoulders. She and Leo had been spending almost every day together, exploring the city, sharing meals, and laughing in ways that felt effortless. Each moment with him felt alive, warm, and comforting. And Nina realized that her feelings for him were growing stronger with each passing day. But with these feelings came fear. She had been careful to hide the truth of her origin. She was not merely a human. She had once been Princess Mira of the Zephyrian race, an alien princess from a faraway galaxy. She had turned to human form to understand life, to feel, and to learn. The council of her people still sent messages urging her to return. Yet every day with Leo reminded her that there was a life here she wanted to live. A life filled with connection, laughter, and love. One quiet afternoon, they walked through the park where the leaves had begun to turn shades of red and gold. Children ran past, tossing leaves into the air, and the sunlight shimmered through the branches. Leo turned to her with a gentle smile. "Nina," he said, "I feel like we've known each other much longer than we have. Being with you, it feels right." Nina's heart fluttered. She wanted to tell him the truth, but words caught in her throat. Could he accept her if he knew she was no longer fully human? Would he see her the same way? Or would fear and disbelief replace the trust they had built? She shook her head slightly, trying to focus on the moment. "I feel the same," she said softly. "You've made this world brighter for me. I feel like I understand life better because of you." Leo reached for her hand, entwining his fingers with hers. The simple touch sent warmth through Nina's body. She realized that the truth could no longer be hidden. Her feelings for Leo were too strong, and the bond they shared had grown too deep. That evening, Nina invited Leo to her small apartment. The walls were simple, but the space had begun to feel like home. She had arranged flowers on the table and brewed a pot of tea, trying to make the setting feel calm and comfortable. They sat across from each other, the soft light of a lamp casting gentle shadows. "Leo," Nina began. her voice quiet but steady. "There's something I need to tell you, something important." Leo looked at her, his eyes warm and patient. "You can tell me anything," he said. "I'm listening." Nina took a deep breath, gathering courage. "I'm not exactly who you think I am. I'm not just a human. I come from far away, from another world. I was a Princess Mira of the Zephyrian race. I chose to become human so I could experience life differently, to learn about humanity, to understand what it means to feel and connect." Leo's eyes widened slightly, but he did not step back or pull away. He simply nodded for her to continue. "I know it's hard to believe," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I was afraid that you wouldn't understand, that you wouldn't accept me. But I had to tell you because my feelings for you are real. I care about you deeply, and I want to share my life with you, whatever that may mean." For a moment, the room was quiet. Nina held her breath, fearing rejection, fear, or disbelief. But instead, Leo reached across the table and took her hand. In both of his, "Nina," he said gently, "I don't fully understand all of it. I can't imagine what it means to be from another world. But I do know this: I see you. I see who you are, the person you've been here with me, the kindness, courage, and love you show. That's who matters to me." Nina's eyes filled with tears, a mix of relief and joy. "Really?" she whispered. "Really?" Leo replied, squeezing her hand. "I care about you. I want to be with you, no matter where you came from or what you've been through. You're incredible, Nina, and I want to share life with you." Her heart swelled with emotion. The fear of rejection melted away, replaced by a warmth and light she had never known. She had feared that her truth would push people away, but instead, Leo accepted her completely for who she was in the moment, not for her past or her powers. Overwhelmed with courage and love, Nina spoke again, this time softly but with confidence. "Leo, please, will you marry me?" The words hung in the air, simple yet profound. She had never spoken them aloud before. Saying them felt like opening her heart fully. Without fear or hesitation, Leo's eyes widened, and for a moment, he said nothing. Then a gentle smile spread across his face. "Yes," he said, his voice calm, steady, and full of emotion. "Yes, I will marry you. I want to share life with you through everything." Nina's chest lifted, and tears streamed down her face. She felt as though a weight she had carried for centuries had been lifted. She had come to Earth searching for understanding, for humanity, and perhaps for love. And now she had found it all. They embraced, holding each other close. The warmth of the moment was unlike anything Nina had ever felt. It was not power, not prestige, not admiration. It was connection, trust, and unconditional acceptance. She realized that human love, in its simplicity and depth, was far stronger than anything she had known in the Zephyrian courts. After a long moment, they pulled back slightly, still holding hands. "I want to be with you," Nina whispered. "Not as a princess, not as anyone else, just as me, here, with you, and I want you just as you are," Leo replied, smiling. "We'll face the future together. Whatever comes." Nina felt a rush of happiness and belonging. The journey she had begun as a human to learn about life had led her to this moment. Trust, love, and acceptance. She had faced fear, doubt, and uncertainty, but she had chosen honesty and courage, and it had brought her closer to Leo than she had ever imagined. That night, as they walked through the quiet streets hand in hand, the city lights reflecting in the puddles from a recent rain, Nina thought about her past, her people, and her old life. It had shaped her, taught her discipline, wisdom, and resilience. But Earth had taught her something equally powerful: the strength of connection, the courage to be vulnerable, and the joy of love and understanding. As they reached her apartment, Leo turned to her and whispered, "I can't wait to see what life has in store for us." Nina smiled, feeling a depth of peace she had never known. For the first time in centuries, she felt whole, not because of her status, intelligence, or strength, but because of love, trust, and acceptance. She had learned that being human was not just about flesh and bone, it was about heart, courage, and connection. And as she closed the door behind them, Nina whispered softly to herself, I am ready for whatever comes next. With him, I am home. Autumn had fully arrived, painting the city in shades of gold, red, and orange. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and the distant aroma of baked goods from street vendors. Nina walked beside Leo, her hand comfortably in his, feeling a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. Every step reminded her of the journey she had taken from Princess Mira of Zephyria to Nina, a human learning what it meant to live, to love, and to connect. The past months had been filled with laughter, small adventures, lessons in humanity, and moments of shared courage. Now, as their engagement settled quietly between them, life felt steady and vibrant, full of hope and promise. Do you remember the first day we met? Leo asked softly, glancing at her with a playful smile. Nina laughed lightly. How could I forget? You were helping that little girl who had tripped near the fountain. I had never felt so connected to someone before. Leo squeezed her hand, and you ran straight into her to help. I thought, who is this brave, kind person? I had no idea you would become such a big part of my life. Nina smiled, her heart warm. Neither did I. Life has a funny way of surprising us. They walked together to the small park where they had shared countless afternoons. Children played in the leaves, dogs ran joyfully, and couples strolled hand in hand. Nina watched the scene and felt a sense of awe. Humans found beauty in ordinary moments, something she had once overlooked as a princess accustomed to grandeur and ceremony. Here, the simplest gestures carried meaning, connection, and joy. Leo noticed her thoughtful gaze. What's on your mind? He asked. I'm thinking about how far I've come, Nina said softly. I came here to understand life as a human, but I've learned more than I expected about love, kindness, courage, and patience, and I've discovered something I never knew I needed. Pew. Leo's eyes softened, and I've discovered the same with you. You've shown me new ways to see the world, to appreciate moments, and to care more deeply. Nina felt her chest swell with happiness. She realized that their bond was not just built on romance, but on shared growth, understanding, and mutual respect. They had learned from each other, supporting one another as they navigated life's unpredictability. The day of their small, intimate wedding arrived. The ceremony was held in a quiet garden, with only close friends and neighbors present. The setting was simple: flowers in shades of autumn, soft sunlight filtering through the trees, and the gentle sound of birdsong. For Nina, it was perfect. It reflected the beauty of life itself, uncomplicated, sincere, and full of warmth. She wore a simple dress, white with subtle golden embroidery, while Leo looked dashing in a suit of deep blue. There were no grand palaces, no royal guests from distant worlds, just the people who had become part of their lives and hearts. As they stood together beneath the arch of autumn leaves, Nina felt a calm certainty. She no longer feared the past or the expectations of her former life. Zephyrian royalty had given her strength and wisdom, but Earth had given her something far greater: love, connection, and the courage to be herself. The efficient, a kind neighbor, who had watched their friendship grow, spoke gently about the beauty of human love. Marriage is not about grandeur or perfection. It is about understanding, supporting, and cherishing each other. It is about facing life together with patience, courage, and joy. Nina looked into Leo's eyes, seeing not just love but trust, acceptance, and devotion. I promise, she whispered, to share my life with you, to stand by you through all moments, to love and support you as fully as I can. Leo's voice was steady, filled with emotion. I promise the same, to be with you, to learn with you, to laugh and grow together. You are my heart, my partner, my home. When they exchanged rings, Nina felt a profound sense of completion. The small golden band on her finger symbolized more than a promise. It symbolized the journey she had taken, the courage to embrace vulnerability, and the joy of finding someone who accepted her fully. After the ceremony, they walked hand in hand through the garden, greeted by friends and neighbors who cheered for them. Children ran past, laughing, and the air was filled with happiness and light. Nina noticed every small detail, the way leaves shimmered in the sun, the laughter of those around her, and the simple warmth of human connection. She realized that these moments, ordinary and fleeting, were the true treasures of life. Later, as the evening sun dipped below the horizon, Nina and Leo sat quietly on a bench. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, and the gentle rustle of leaves created a soothing rhythm. "Do you ever think about your old world?" Leo asked softly. Nina nodded. "Sometimes. I remember my people, my duties, the life I had. But I also know that this world, this life, is where I am meant to be now. Here, I can love, feel, and grow in ways I never could before, and I want to do it with you." Leo smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then we'll face it together. Whatever comes, we'll handle it side by side." Nina leaned into him, feeling a sense of peace and belonging that transcended time, distance, and even worlds. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and the unknown, but she had chosen courage, honesty, and love, and it had brought her to this perfect moment. As night fell, the city lights shimmered like stars on the ground. They walked home slowly, hands intertwined, hearts connected. For Nina, every step was a celebration of life, not just human life, but the life she had chosen, the love she had found, and the journey that had brought her here. In her small apartment, they prepared a simple dinner together, laughing as they clumsily chopped vegetables and stirred sauces. The evening was quiet, filled with conversation, warmth, and shared smiles. Nina realized that happiness did not come from grandeur or power, but from connection, care, and small moments of joy shared with someone who truly understood you. As they sat together after the meal, Leo took her hand and said, "I can't wait to see what life has in store for us. Every day with you feels like an adventure." Nina smiled, her heart full. "And I can't wait to share it with you. I've learned that life is about feeling, learning, and connecting. And with you, I feel complete." That night, as they lay side by side, Nina whispered softly, "I am home." Leo squeezed her hand gently. "And you always will be." Outside, the city slept peacefully, unaware of the quiet, profound love that had blossomed within it. Inside, Nina and Leo had found something extraordinary, a life built on understanding, courage, and the simple, enduring power of human connection. For Nina, the journey that had begun in another galaxy, as a princess searching for understanding, had led her to Earth, to humanity, and to the heart of someone who truly saw her. And now, as she closed her eyes, she knew that the future full of unknowns, adventures, and love was a journey they would face together. In that moment, everything felt right. Earth, humans, love, and life itself were no longer lessons to be studied. They were a home she had chosen, a world she belonged to, and a heart she could share completely. Nina had found not just understanding, but a new beginning. Milo wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crouched in front of the small control panel. The outpost was quiet, far away from any human settlement, floating on the edge of uncharted space. Its metal walls were cold, and the hum of the life support systems was the only sound he could hear. For months, he had lived alone, maintaining the station, checking the sensors, and keeping everything running smoothly. The isolation was sometimes heavy, but Milo liked the peace. He adjusted a small power conduit and muttered to himself, "Just a few more checks, and the morning shift will be safe." That was when he heard the soft chime at the door. The station rarely received visitors. Milo froze and listened. Another chime echoed through the empty hallways. Curious and cautious, he stood up and walked slowly toward the entrance. When he opened the door, he found a woman standing there. She looked ordinary. At first glance, simple clothes, soft brown hair, and calm eyes, but there was something about her that felt unusual. She held a small bag and smiled politely. "Hello," she said. Her voice was gentle, almost musical. "I'm sorry to bother you. I was wondering if I could stay here, just for one night." Milo blinked. One night, he asked, "This is an outpost. I don't usually have visitors. Where are you coming from?" "Just passing through," she said, her smile never fading. "I promise I won't be a problem. I only need one night." Milo hesitated. He didn't usually let strangers in, but something about her tone made him feel like she could be trusted. Maybe it was her calm presence or the way she spoke as if she understood him. He stepped aside. "All right," he said finally, "one night. But no funny business." She nodded, her eyes brightening. "Thank you. That's all I ask," as she stepped inside. The airlock sealed with a soft hiss. Milo couldn't help but notice a faint shimmer around her, like heat waves on a distant desert. He shook his head. "I'm imagining things," he muttered. The woman, who had introduced herself as Nora, set her bag down and looked around the small room. She didn't touch anything, didn't ask questions. Instead, she simply observed. Milo felt a shiver run down his spine. There was intelligence in her eyes, something beyond ordinary human thought. "I'll show you to the guest quarters," Milo said, trying to sound casual. "It's not much, but it's comfortable enough for one night," as he led her down the narrow corridor. Milo noticed that the station seemed to react strangely. Lights flickered softly when she passed, and a quiet vibration hummed through the floor. He tried to ignore it, blaming the old wiring and the ship's staging systems. The guest quarters were small but tidy, a bed, a table, and a view of the stars beyond the thick glass window. Milo felt the loneliness of the station press down on him suddenly. "Well," he said, "here you are. One night. That's it, okay?" Nora smiled again. "Of course. I won't overstay my welcome." Milo nodded and left the room. He felt uneasy but dismissed it. People sometimes traveled far in space. Maybe she was just a lost traveler. That night, Milo tried to sleep, but the quiet was broken by strange lights dancing across the walls of the station. At first, he thought it was a power fluctuation, but the patterns were too regular, too precise. He got up and walked to the observation deck. Through the window, he saw Nora standing in the middle of the main room, her hands hovering above a control panel. A soft blue glow surrounded her fingertips. Milo's heart raced. He whispered to himself, "What is she doing?" The glow faded as quickly as it appeared. Nora turned slightly and looked at him, her eyes calm. She didn't speak, but Milo felt as if she had read his thoughts. A strange sense of curiosity mixed with fear washed over him. The next morning, he tried to act normal. "Breakfast is in the mess hall," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Help yourself." Nora followed, moving gracefully through the corridors. She didn't touch anything unless necessary. Yet the systems of the station seemed smoother, almost more efficient. Milo noticed that repairs he had struggled with yesterday were now functioning perfectly, as if someone had adjusted them while he slept. "Did you fix this?" he asked. Pointing at a panel dot, Nora shook her head. "I only observed. You have a unique way of solving problems. I wanted to see it." Milo frowned. "I don't understand." "Humans are curious," she said softly. "You don't just survive. You find ways to thrive even in difficult situations. That is rare." Milo felt a strange pride mixed with unease. "You're not from around here, are you?" he asked. Cautiously, Nora smiled, but it was not quite human. "Let's say I am from far away. Very far." The day passed slowly. Milo tried to work on the station, but he couldn't stop glancing at Nora. She moved quietly, always watching, always learning. He wondered why she had chosen him, why she was here, and why she had stayed more than one night already. By the evening, Milo realized something important. She was not just a traveler. She had a purpose, though he could not yet guess what it was. He sat by the observation window, staring at the stars. For days ago, she had asked to stay one night. Tonight, she was still here. And Milo could feel, deep in his bones, that these for days would change everything. Outside the station, the stars were bright and endless. Milo wondered what else was out there, beyond the edge of human knowledge, and he realized, for the first time in his life, that maybe humans were not as small and powerless in the universe as he had always thought. Nora turned toward him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. She said nothing, but Milo felt a silent promise. The story was only beginning, and somewhere deep in space, beyond the reach of human imagination, the universe was watching too.